cheating doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts much earlier, in places you'd never suspect. One day, everything feels normal at home, and the next, you realize she's drifting away right under your nose. And the cruelest part? You can be sitting at the same dinner table while she's already feeding her desire somewhere else. That's how men lose respect, loyalty, and even themselves, because they missed the signs before it was too late. But here's the truth. Infidelity rarely begins with the physical act. It begins with tiny moments, subtle places where she feels seen and alive again. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 7 places where betrayal usually starts. And trust me, number 7 will shake you to your core. And here's the part most men never realize until it's too late. Research from the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy shows that nearly 35% of women have experienced what's called an emotional affair. That means the betrayal often begins long before anything physical ever happens. It starts when she finds someone who listens, someone who notices, someone who makes her feel alive again. By the time it turns physical, if it ever does, the damage is already done. That emotional connection is often harder to break than physical intimacy itself. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've worked with countless men blindsided by infidelity. And here's the common thread. They always say, "I never saw it coming." That's why I make videos like this, to bring those hidden truths into the light. If you want more of these raw insights, hit subscribe, tap like, and share your own experience in the comments. Did you ever miss a subtle sign until it was too late? Your story helps other men see the patterns. Now, let's uncover the first place where betrayal usually begins. Number 1. The silent gym. Let me tell you something most men don't want to hear. The gym isn't just about weights, sweat, and treadmills. For many women, it's a stage where they test whether they can still spark desire. And if you're the man who assumes she's only there for health, you're setting yourself up for a brutal awakening. Here's the truth. When a woman hasn't felt seen in her own relationship, the gym becomes her mirror. Not the one in her bathroom, the mirror of male attention. Every glance, every casual compliment, every trainer who says you're making progress isn't about fitness, it's about validation. And validation, my friend, is gasoline on the fire of desire. Think about it. You've been with her for years. You stopped noticing the little changes. She buys new leggings, adjusts her diet, posts post-workout selfies, and you shrug it off as harmless. But at the gym, surrounded by testosterone, she's being watched, admired, and told she's attractive. Meanwhile, you've convinced yourself her new obsession with working out is just self-care. That's not self-care. That's self-discovery, and she's not discovering it with you. Let me give you a real picture. David, 46, had been dating his girlfriend for almost 5 years. They weren't married, but he thought everything was stable. Then she joined a gym. At first, he was supportive. Good for her health, he told himself. A few weeks later, he noticed she started dressing up before workouts, staying longer than usual, and texting with someone more often at night. One evening, by accident, he glanced at her phone. A message popped up. "Love the way you push through those last reps. Your body's changing fast." It wasn't from David. It was from her trainer, 10 years younger, full of energy, and clearly giving her what David no longer did. Attention laced with desire. David thought he was the provider, the steady man she could rely on. But at the gym, she wasn't looking for reliability. She was looking to feel alive. And David? He had already lost the frame without even realizing it. Now, don't twist my words. Not every woman who joins a gym is cheating. But every woman who feels invisible at home is at risk of finding her reflection elsewhere. And the gym is one of the easiest places for that spark to ignite. So here's your strategy. Don't laugh it off. Don't dismiss the changes. Pay attention. Reappear, not with flowers or apologies, but with presence. Presence is the antidote to invisibility. She doesn't need a gym trainer's empty compliments. She needs to feel your gaze again, your masculine energy again. If you leave that space vacant, trust me, someone else will gladly step in. The gym is silent, yes. But silence doesn't mean harmless. It's where the first invisible cracks in loyalty often appear. And by the time you hear the noise, it might already be too late. But desire isn't just physical. It gets even more dangerous when emotions get involved. Number 2, the office that never sleeps. Most men still think cheating starts with a kiss. Wrong. It usually starts with a conversation. And one of the most dangerous breeding grounds for that conversation is the office. You think her workplace is boring, just paperwork, spreadsheets, and deadlines. But for her, it can quietly become the most emotionally charged environment in her life. Here's what you underestimate. Women don't cheat because they're looking for sex. They cheat because they're starving for connection. At work, she might get what she no longer gets at home. Small gestures, attentive listening, a smile that feels sincere. It doesn't start with confessions or late-night texts. It starts with someone remembering how she takes her coffee, asking if she's okay, or laughing at her jokes with real interest. Tiny, invisible threads that weave into an emotional rope strong enough to pull her away from you. Let me give you a picture. Mark, 52, married for nearly 3 decades. His wife, Linda, worked as an accountant. Every evening she came home, exhausted, and conversations with Mark were short and practical. Bills, schedules, errands. Nothing wrong, nothing dramatic, just routine. Until one day, Mark noticed Linda talking more about a coworker named Jason. Harmless at first, but over time, Jason knew details about Linda that Mark hadn't heard in years. Her favorite music, her dreams from college, the fact that she was worried about turning 50. Linda wasn't sneaking off to hotels. She was staying late at the office, lingering over extra projects, and texting Jason during breaks. When Mark confronted her, she swore nothing physical had happened. And she wasn't lying. But emotionally, she was already gone. Jason had taken Mark's place as the man who listened, the man who understood, the man who made her feel chosen. And that's the part most men don't get. Infidelity doesn't always begin in the body, it begins in the soul. So what's the lesson here? If you think providing money, stability, or problem-solving is enough, you're mistaken. Women don't leave because the bills aren't paid. They leave because they feel unseen, unheard, and untouched emotionally. If another man listens more attentively than you, you're already in a fight you don't even know you're losing. Here's what you need to do. Stop trusting the marriage contract and start investing in the emotional connection. When she shares something, even something small, be present. Don't dismiss it, don't joke it away, and don't treat her words like background noise. Emotional affairs grow because men stop showing up emotionally, and if you keep ignoring that, the contract won't save you. Remember this, a husband who only solves problems becomes a roommate, but a man who sees, listens, and connects becomes irreplaceable. Which one do you want to be? And if you think it only happens at work, wait until you see the places where she goes alone. Number 3, the coffee shop. You think a coffee shop is harmless, right? Just lattes, croissants, and a quiet corner. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For many women, the coffee shop is not about caffeine. It's about validation. It's about testing if she can still be noticed when you no longer notice her. She says she goes there to read, to clear her mind. Maybe she even brings a book. Maybe she posts a selfie with her cappuccino. But the real story? She's putting herself back on the stage. She dresses just a little better than usual, puts on lipstick she hasn't worn for you in months, chooses a seat by the window where the lighting flatters her face. She's not there to finish that novel. She's there to see if a man will glance, smile, or strike up a casual conversation. She's there to remind herself she's still visible. Here's what most men miss. She doesn't need an affair to start. She doesn't need someone to sweep her off her feet. All she needs is proof that she still has it. proof that she can attract attention outside the walls of your relationship. And if she's chasing that proof in a coffee shop, it's because she isn't getting it at home. Now, here's the brutal part. You might laugh it off. You might think, it's just coffee, she's just relaxing. But every unacknowledged lipstick, every unnoticed new outfit, every time she walks out the door without you realizing she's looking for something, those are warning signs. Because the problem isn't that she wants to feel attractive. The problem is that you didn't notice she stopped wanting to feel attractive for you. So what do? Don't accuse her. Don't turn paranoid and stalk her every move. That will only push her further away. Instead, reappear. Not with empty gestures like flowers you bought on the way home because you feel guilty. Reappear with presence. With masculine attention that doesn't beg but doesn't vanish either. When she gets dressed up, notice. When she changes her routine, observe. Ask her why she's doing it. Not with suspicion, but with curiosity. Let her feel that she is being seen again, not by strangers at a cafe, but by the man she chose. The logic is simple. A woman who feels invisible will seek light anywhere she can. If you want that light to shine back toward you, you have to step up and reclaim your role. Not by controlling her, but by radiating such presence and confidence that her little coffee shop games start to feel meaningless compared to the energy you bring into her life. Don't fool yourself into thinking routine equals security. If her heart is sitting at that cafe table while you're sitting on the couch, then you've already lost her presence. And once another man's glance makes her feel alive, you'll find yourself competing in a game you didn't even know had started. But the most dangerous stage doesn't happen in public. It happens when she's alone with her phone. Number 4, late-night social media. If the coffee shop is where she tests her visibility in public, then social media is where she feeds it in secret. This is one of the most underestimated danger zones. Why? Because it doesn't require her to leave the house. She can be lying right next to you in bed, phone glowing in her hand, while she slips further away from you. One message, one like, one DM at a time. Most men tell themselves, it's just online, it's not real. That's the biggest lie you can buy into. Emotional betrayal always begins in the mind, and social media is the perfect breeding ground. Filters erase flaws, nostalgia reopens doors, and the dopamine hit of a new message becomes addictive. She's not a wife there. She's not a mother. She's not your girlfriend. She's a woman again, desired, flattered, validated. Let me make it real for you. Tom, 41, was dating a woman 5 years younger. He thought everything was stable. They went out, laughed together, planned vacations. But one night, while she thought Tom was asleep, he noticed her smiling at her phone, smiling in a way he hadn't seen in months. Later, Tom discovered she had been reconnecting with her ex over late-night DMs. No physical affair, no secret hotel rooms, just messages. But Tom told me those words hurt more than any kiss could, because every laugh she gave to her phone was a laugh she wasn't giving to him. That's the trap. You ignore it because you can't prove anything physical. But every inside joke she shares online, every picture she sends late at night, every good morning message she waits for from someone else, that's energy stolen from you. It chips away at the bond until, eventually, she looks at you with distance and says, I just don't feel the same anymore. And by then, you're already out of the game. So what's the strategy here? No, it's not grabbing her phone, scrolling through her messages, or playing detective. That's weakness. The real move is to build a presence so powerful offline that her online playground feels like a cheap imitation. Women seek attention where they don't feel it. If she's addicted to the dopamine of DMs, it's because you stopped giving her the adrenaline of real connection. Here's a cold punchline. The man who ignores her emotional world loses her before he ever realizes it. If she smiles more at her phone than at you, you've already surrendered the battle without a fight. So don't dismiss late-night scrolling as harmless. That screen can be more dangerous than any stranger at a bar, because it doesn't just lure her attention, it rewires her loyalty. And if you don't intervene by stepping up, By reclaiming the bond through presence and masculine clarity, she'll keep drifting until the phone is where her heart lives, not your arms. And once the digital spark is alive, the next step becomes dangerously real. Number 5. Social gatherings. Most men think the real danger happens in dark hotel rooms or secret online chats. Wrong. Sometimes it happens right under the glow of chandeliers, in crowded rooms filled with laughter, music, and glasses clinking. Social gatherings, weddings, office parties, charity events, community dinners, these are stages where a woman can rediscover her power. And if you're not paying attention, you'll watch her transform in front of strangers while she slowly disappears from you. Here's why these events are so potent. They combine 3 dangerous elements: atmosphere, attention, and anonymity. The atmosphere gives her an excuse to dress up, look radiant, and step out of routine. The attention comes from casual compliments. "You look stunning tonight," or "I didn't know you could dance like that." And the anonymity? That's the trick. In a crowd, she can flirt without accountability. No one's keeping score. No one sees the subtle touches, the lingering glances, the sparks hidden behind laughter. And don't kid yourself, it doesn't take much. A woman who feels invisible at home only needs a single compliment in the right lighting to feel alive again. One harmless dance can become a mental replay she hides from you. One social event can plant the seed of what if. And once that thought grows, it doesn't need your permission to take root. Here's the part men hate hearing. Sometimes you're standing right there while it happens. You're holding her drink, nodding at colleagues, while she's basking in another man's attention. You think you're in control because you're the husband, the boyfriend, the provider. But in that moment, you're just the background character in her story. And the man making her laugh too long, he's the main act, at least in her mind. So how do you counter it? Not by panicking, not by dragging her home, not by acting jealous. That only proves your insecurity. The key is to hold your frame. A man who keeps his composure, who owns the room with quiet authority, doesn't compete for validation, he radiates it. Instead of being the guy who looks threatened, be the man everyone else notices without trying. Women don't want to be with the man who begs for their loyalty. They want to be with the man who doesn't lose himself when challenged. Here's the punchline. If you can't lead in a social setting, you've already lost her to the spotlight. Because in those moments, she's deciding who makes her feel more alive, the man by her side or the one across the room making her pulse quicken. Don't underestimate the small beginnings. What looks like harmless fun under party lights can become the crack in your foundation. And by the time you notice, the seed of infidelity has already been planted, not in the bedroom, but on the dance floor. But when those games move from the party to private moments, that's when the danger peaks. Number 6. The alone moments. If social gatherings are where the first sparks fly, the real danger begins when she engineers moments of privacy. These accidental alone times aren't accidents. They are tests, subtle, calculated, and designed to see how far she can push the boundaries without crossing them. Yet, think about it. A married woman doesn't need to say, "I want you." All she needs to do is linger after the meeting, ask you to walk her to her car, or find a reason for the two of you to be the last ones in the room. No kisses, no touches, just the silence thick with tension. It's not about advice. It's not about errands. It's about adrenaline. She wants to feel chosen. She wants to feel like she can still bend the rules. Let me give you a real picture. Paul, 55, had been married for 25 years. He joined a local community board, nothing flashy. Monthly meetings, paperwork, neighbors discussing budgets. But then, one woman on the board, also married, began finding excuses to be alone with him. "Can you help me carry these files to the car? Would you mind staying a few minutes after everyone leaves?" At first, Paul thought nothing of it. Until one evening, standing beside her in the empty hall, he felt that undeniable electricity. She looked at him a moment too long. Her tone softened. For the first time in years, he felt desired again. But here's the cruel truth. Paul wasn't her prize. He was her mirror. She didn't want Paul himself. She wanted what Paul reflected back to her. The thrill of being wanted. The power of knowing she could still make a man hesitate. That's the trap. If Paul had leaned in, if he had crossed that line, she would have gotten her proof and walked away, leaving him carrying the wreckage of temptation. This is why these private encounters are so dangerous. They aren't just about what might happen. They're about what they take from you: clarity, control, and self-respect. The man who can't hold his frame in those moments becomes disposable. Just another story for her to replay in her head. So what's the move? It's not about shaming her or lecturing. It's about owning yourself. Set boundaries without apology. Don't let adrenaline drag you into someone else's drama. A high-value man doesn't leap at every invitation. He chooses when and where to invest his energy. If she's creating these accidental private moments, recognize it for what it is: a test of your self-control. And the man who controls the tension controls the game. Here's the punchline. She doesn't respect the man who caves. She respects the man who makes her wonder but never loses himself. And that, ironically, is the man who stays unforgettable. So remember, the most expensive mistake isn't falling into bed with her. It's losing weeks, months, even years of your life repairing a mess you should never have allowed. And if you've missed all these signs, the last place is the cruelest, because it happens under your own roof. Number 7. Your own home. The cruelest place where infidelity begins isn't some hotel room or secret corner of the internet. It's your own home. The place you thought was untouchable, the fortress where you sleep, eat, and assume loyalty is guaranteed. But here's the truth. Infidelity doesn't need to walk through the front door. It's already inside if your presence is gone. This is the stage most men never see coming. They think because they provide, because the bills are paid, because the house is standing, everything is fine. But look closer. The house is no longer a home. What used to be warmth has turned into silence. The small touches? Gone. The spontaneous words? Vanished. You move from screen to screen. She moves from chore to chore, and between the two of you there's nothing but duty. That's not love. That's a routine waiting for collapse. Understand this. When a woman no longer feels desired in her own home, she doesn't need an excuse to look elsewhere. She just needs an opportunity. And opportunities are everywhere. At the gym, at work, on her phone, at social events. If she already feels unwanted under your roof, the rest is just logistics. Men often cling to the idea of marriage as a contract. She's my wife, she can't just leave. That's delusion. A contract doesn't inspire passion. A ring doesn't guarantee loyalty. Presence does. And when you stop being emotionally present, you create the emptiest, most vulnerable place of all, your own living room. Here's the part that stings. Many men are replaced while they're sitting right there at the dinner table. Not because she wanted to betray, but because he stopped seeing her. He stopped making her feel alive. Infidelity at home doesn't start with someone else's hands on her body. It starts when she stops hoping for yours. So what do? Not flowers, not empty apologies, not another promise you won't keep. You reclaim your presence. That means showing up with masculine energy, not as a provider on autopilot, but as a man who leads, notices, initiates. It means breaking the cycle of silence before someone else fills it. Here's your wake-up call. Infidelity in your home is the symptom, not the disease. The disease is complacency. And the cure is transformation, not in her, but in you. Because if you don't step up, someone else will. But what do you do if you've already discovered it's happening? So now you see the truth. Infidelity doesn't begin in the bedroom. It doesn't start with kisses or hotel rooms. It starts in places so ordinary, so familiar, you almost laugh at the thought until it's too late. The gym, the office, the cafe, her phone, the party, those accidental alone moments, and finally, your own home. Every single one of them is a doorway, not into sex, but into disconnection. And if you've been paying attention, you know the real danger isn't outside. It's the absence of presence inside your life. Here's the cold truth. A man who believes his marriage contract or his role as provider will protect him has already lost. Because women don't betray out of nowhere. They drift when they no longer feel alive with you. Infidelity is not the start of the problem. It's the symptom of years of neglect, silence, and blindness. So what if you've already discovered it's happening? First, breathe. Don't explode. Don't beg. Don't hand over your dignity on a silver platter. Second, ask yourself, who am I and what do I want? If you choose to continue, it cannot be on the same terms. Boundaries must be rebuilt, presence must be reclaimed, and you must show up as a man who leads. If you choose to walk away, do it with clarity and pride, not with groveling, not with anger, but with direction. Because a man's value isn't proven by holding on, it's proven by how he stands, even when he lets go. You weren't made to be someone's backup plan. You were made to live awake, with wisdom, with power, with presence. So here's my challenge. Stop being blind. Stop living asleep. Start reclaiming what you've let slip. Your voice, your desire, your authority. And if you felt this wake-up call, then don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share this video, drop a comment below, and write one clear phrase. I act with wisdom, because that isn't just a statement, it's a decision. Infidelity isn't the cause, it's the mirror. The question is, when you look into it, will you keep pretending, or will you finally reclaim your power?